Welcome to Hot Topics After Dark with the inspired muse himself, leadership coach and author Jeffrey DeShawn. Let's get talking.
Hello, fams, faves, likes, and loves, and those souls I've yet to meet. It's Jeffrey DeShawn, the Inspired Muse. We're back with another episode of Hot Topics After Dark. And we have one of our favorite, if not the most favorite people with us again, Dr. Kimberly Morton. Dr. Kim Possible, you know, is what I call her. We are back talking education and the reopening of schools. Dr. Morton, thank you for being with us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be back. So on our last episode, we talked about if preparing to get your child back to school and what that looks like. And so we talked about having a kit for students, a mask, maybe a face shield, some hand sanitizers, some soap, just in case, and gloves. And we talked about and then also preparing your child to talk to other people, their peers around, hey, you're a little too close to me. Can you stand back a little bit? Having those conversations, right? Because you need to prepare now to sort of talk to the child and, get them prepared to have those difficult conversations with their peers and classmates and or teachers, right? So we talked about that. And so today we're going to talk more about virtual and what that looks like and the implications of virtual and maybe some extra aids that you can have, online and to help, or if you bring in a tutor or bring in somebody, a retired teacher to sort of help your child through this year and what that looks like for your child. So.
Awesome. Well, let's dig in because I know a lot of parents who we talked to, some parents sending testing the water, sending their kids back to school.
Right.
But there are a lot of parents that say, no, I'm gonna start off with the virtual, and we're gonna see how the year goes. And I know some parents that say we're gonna do virtual all year long. We're not sending our kids back. So for either scenario, when you think about one, as a parent, how do you assess? What are some tips for parents assessing the virtual platform, the curriculum that's being set up, the agendas and all that? I know they all put all that in the system. What should parents look for to determine, like, if it's really credible, if it's really sort of set up to really meet the need? Like, how do the parents assess those virtual platforms?
Well, I think really having an understanding with the teacher, really communicating with the teacher or professor or whoever, and then looking at the unit plans and making sure, that those look right. But also thinking about what you think your child needs, because I think this is an opportunity for K-12, right? To think about online and what that looks like for students for future, right? Because at the end of the day, it's going to be post-COVID. We will never be before COVID, right? So thinking about what education will look like post-COVID, and this could really be an opportunity for K-12 to have sort of a hybrid curriculum, if you will, or a virtual curriculum, and what the future may hold as it relates to K-12, right? Because we are in a different space. It's more technology now, all that good stuff. So really just looking at the unit, what I would do, and this is basic, right? I would actually have a calendar or a plan for your child, right? This is a good opportunity for your child to understand time management, right? Because, I think the K-12 system really doesn't really prepare students, for the most part, for college, right? So really, this could be a great opportunity to have some time management for your child, right? If they are going online where the teacher's actually coming on, they're doing a Zoom, that's different, right? So you have class time, then when do you study, right? And so having a prepared calendar for your child so that they can stay on task. That's one thing that I would think about. Also, I would think about the planner piece. I would also think about where you would put study times, or maybe having your child go to different spaces in the home, right? To study, right? Don't study just at the table, but go somewhere else and study so that they can have a designated spot for study time. So they won't feel like they're in the same place the whole time, if that makes sense. I would also think about other resources like Khan Academy, badges, thinking about where your child is skill-wise. There's a program with badges to talk about, are they mastering this particular skill and what that looks like. So I think those are some of the things that I would think about for right now. I would also think about if it's not where and I don't know what the virtual will look like in each school district, but If it's a thing where they just get work, right, and then they just have to submit it, then you really have to focus on planning and what that looks like. So then not only think about the planning for the child, but the planning for you, right, for work, right? So thinking about how will the child being at home impact your work, right? Will you be working at night because the child's working during the day? Will you be helping the child? Will you get a tutor? Like all of these things will come into play. And I think obviously it'll be a lot more work for the parent at this point to make sure that the child is getting what they need so that they can, move or matriculate to the next grade. So I think there's a lot of things, the planning, the time management. We had a dry run, if you will, in March, but this will be the real test. And I think that hopefully school districts are up to par as it relates to their online education, their online portals, and what all that is. I think making sure that your internet is quality internet. That's a big, huge thing. Making sure that you may have hotspots for your child's individual laptop or computer, because you don't want it to crash, right, while they're working and while you're working. So thinking about those things, because I know that's a big, big thing if 2 or 3 people are on the internet at the same time. So thinking about those things. And you might want to just carve out a space for your child, right? Because I'm like at a TV tray right now. I do have an office, but the lighting is bad in there. So, so I'm literally with a TV tray. So if it's carving out a space for the child to actually do the work and then go somewhere else and study, I would think about those things. And I would really think about whether or not you want to have somebody else to just sort of supplement that education. Like I said, whether it's a retired teacher or a tutor or somebody like that. So I think really doing your research and your due diligence around programs that can really be effective in this virtual time. But definitely Khan Academy will be a good resource. And badges. They have these badges that help with skill mastery. So thinking about those.
Yeah, the badges is such a great example, because particularly for those parents who want to make sure that those activities that they engage their children with are credible and validated and aligned with some particular goals and objectives that actually really align with age appropriate development and skill building. Those badge-based programs, most of them, have really been sort of aligned with educational standards and training development pathways. And so it gives you some level of validation that those particular activities or tools are actually going to be contributing for your children.
I think with this virtual piece, the planning is the key. I think before, you had a routine where you get up in the morning, get dressed, take the child to school, you had a routine, right? So the routine will change, but you still have to have a plan and to keep everybody on track. And I think that that's the most important when you're all home at the same time and working and school and things of that nature. But I think this will, I think this also will bring the family close together. I think being home virtually, you get to spend more time with your children, all that kind of stuff. Not that you don't spend time with your children, but most of the time they're at school, right? They're at school more often than they're at home. So that's just by hours, by sheer hours or sleep. So I think that it will be very interesting to see how this virtual learning happens. And I know that some students don't learn well virtually. They have hands-on, things like that. And so I think that they like hands-on and they learn visually, things of that nature. So I think just incorporating some of those hands-on activities at home, right? So that can help the child as well.
I just had a great conversation this week, and actually there's going to be a episode of Hot Topics After Dark with this gentleman who's launching, they're called Black Music Entertainment. It's a streaming platform, and these are a group of Black musicians, composers, and musicians from the orchestras or opera or classical trained community, and they are making available music education via this streaming platform. And so being able to teach your child, piano and those kinds of things and other instruments, they're going to have Black Music Education platform. We're going to have them on, and they're going to make all that'll be available as a extracurricular, outlet, additional, for kids. But more parents finding those kinds of resources are going to be key, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And then how do, dealing with the athletics, how
Yeah.
are,
Well,
parents dealing with
I
athletics?
think maybe, still going to the park, allowing your child to, do some things socially distancing or physically distancing, to just keep their strength up, maybe working out in the basement or right outside or something like that. I think you definitely need that physical outlet or that sort of like recess, if you will. And so, figuring out what that looks like for your family is most important. What I will say is make sure that, you mask up, still outside, face shield, making sure students, even your child has sanitizer and is washing their hands all the time. I think that's still important, even if you're at home virtually, right? Because you're going to want to go outside. So I think just making sure that you're still doing what you need to do as it relates to COVID, but really understanding that this is going to take a lot of planning. It's going to take a lot of time. It's going to take a lot of out of your family, and so just be prepared for it. Also, be prepared for if everybody comes home and sort of what that looks like for schools in general, right? How that will change uh, what's happening at the school level. So just be prepared for that as well.
Oh, well,
But yeah.
a lot to think about. But it sounds like in all things, the key thing is to be prepared. This isn't a space where you can sort of just wait on the school district or even just the state or
Right.
local government, because they have their hands full outside of other political considerations. And so it's just the moment where you kind of have to do what's in the best interest for you and your family. And the only way that you're going to know that is that you sort of step back and take stock. I think what I hear you say is, you know yourself best, as I always say, and the parents know your children. You know your children the best, and so while you haven't been their educator and you send them off to school, you actually probably know how best to sort of create a scenario for your particular child to be
Right.
successful. And it sounds like what I hear Dr. Morton saying is like sort of use that information, trust yourself, and put a full plan together. Don't let it
Yeah.
be sort of happenstance and we'll see. We're here every day. We've been here every day together. I can hear a lot of parents going, well, we've been here every day all summer long. It's fine. I work in my little cubby. They out there, they'll be fine. And when the pressures of expectation around school, because
Yes.
there's still specific expectations from these institutions, because remember, they still are funding and therefore have to report back on the progress and use and impact of that funding. So when those new expectations come and your kids have to meet particular standards and still do homework, things might look and feel a little different.
So definitely be prepared. But also, I was gonna you mentioned something, and I was thinking, if you have children who are sort of, one is 10, one is 13, one is 15, maybe you have the older kid tutor the younger kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's also a good idea to think about, right? And, I think really just really bringing your family together and thinking about how can Johnny help Sarah and Sarah help Susie, or what that looks like. So thinking about that, and even if there are people like neighborhood kids that are also virtual, right? You have Johnny down the street who's 15 tutoring your 10-year-old via Zoom. So think about that. Like, just let's start thinking about our neighbors and our families and how we can all work together to figure out a way to educate the student.
Yeah, what I hear in that, and this is the powerful, statement of this moment, is that we're not in this alone. We're all experiencing this in some way, shape, or form. And so, now is the time to begin to sort of break back out of our silos and, as we physically distance from each other, folks have shown up for each other throughout this pandemic. Now is the time we can show up for each other, even if in helping to support educate. I know, I don't have children, but I have nieces and nephews and cousins, and I have I'm a social worker by training. Social sciences are my thing, and so I've offered to do some supplemental tutoring and creative experiences and activities to help support some of that. And so maybe there are family members that have particular expertise and things that you can leverage, right? And so we're being challenged to think out of the box and not wait on the school system as a box package store to educate our children. And I think, you started this off with something powerful, because you said, and it was so powerful, you talked about actually seizing this moment as an opportunity. and
Yes.
specifically as an opportunity to build time, help your children and yourself, honestly, probably in some respects, build time management skills. And I think there's the power in that. We know that all that's going on with the pandemic and the such sad loss of life and all the fear around it. But in this one piece, particularly because this is about educating our children, which is educating is about equipping and training them for the future and also our future, right? Is that if we flip this to the mindset for your children, that you're not going back to school, however, but we have an opportunity to treat your development as an enterprise. And now you, as a business owner of your enterprise, which is you, your child gets to co-create what that educational experience looks like. I know some parents who particularly have seniors in high school or students who are in college who've decided to use this year, whether they're doing virtual classes or not, as an apprenticeship year. And they're working either virtually to find or if appropriate, things that allow social distance-based work. There are a lot of things you can do so that the other part of the day or week that their child is engaged in some experiential job development, career exposure experiences. So I think this is also a great opportunity. As Kim said, it's not just about going to college anymore, getting a degree, because it's about what job can you do, how can you make an income. And so we also have an opportunity to reimagine education from a skill building perspective, and now use this year as a really developmentally to start connecting our children even more so with those, aligning with their gifts and talents and building the skills that they will actually be able to have an income and a career beyond, education and sort of title and position.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a great opportunity for our country to reimagine education. And I also think this is also an opportunity to build neighborhoods and community, right? And to make sure that we are all helping one another in this situation, like we talked about earlier. I know that my mom and I are teachers, and so we're helping my niece and nephew with school. They live in Georgia, and we're supplementing that education if they go virtually, right? So, I think we have to think about it in a way that we're all that we have. And so if we come to it as a village, right? Because as we know, it takes a village. It takes a village, right? And so we have to think of it in that way. It's not just us. It's just not a singular family, right? It's everyone. And so if we all get together as families to supplement education for students, we're all winning. Whereas we always think about me, 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 me. I think we need to be thinking about us.
Indeed. And on that note, as Dr. Morton has said, we need to start thinking about us and ours and all of ours. And as she said, it takes a village. I'm gonna quote the Queen Godmother and say also, yes, it takes a village, because I believe our children are our future. And we need to teach them well so that they can lead the way. And if we don't show them the way by leading the way that says, I love you, your life is valuable, and so therefore I'm going to protect you. And so in the protecting of you, because you lead the way, I'm going to make sure I'm going to take back responsibility for your education and development. And if we're going to figure out a way together, because you are so important that I'm not going to just sort of throw you back in a questionable situation. And I'm going to make sure that you have a future where you can lead.
Yes, I agree.
All right. Well,
and let's lead by example. Let's lead by example.
Hey, folks, she said it. That's it. Let's lead by example. That's Dr. Kimberly Morton, Dr. Kim Possible, as we call her. And this is Jeffrey DeShawn, the Inspired Muse. And this has been another episode of Hot Topics After Dark. Thank you for joining us.